they really got me. Oh,
Ben's in his element. What did you find? Ooh. What is it?
Doré.
Ooh, doré.
Do you know Gustave Doré?
No.
I love.
Ooh, I like him.
love his his stuff. I love it so much. He was a German author I really like, and he wrote a book. He basically grabbed like 100 Doré illustrations because he loved them so much, and then just wrote a story out of them.
That's so cool. Guess how much these 3 little books cost me? £8. That's crazy. Ah! It's crazy. I love hay-on-wye. I've only been here 5 minutes. With the help of ale and an espresso martini, we are planning our route for tomorrow because there are so many bookshops. It's kind of overwhelming. We have mostly said we're going to most. We've went to some today, but they closed up pretty quickly. So tomorrow's a big day.
Precise military planning required.
What, sorry?
Precise military planning required.
Honestly, and also Sunday, I don't want to risk losing too many in case they're closed Sunday. So leave the ones that
we're gonna have to do the ones tomorrow first that close on Sunday.
Exactly, because some of them say they're off season, they're closed on Sundays, but how are we supposed to know? So we got to be careful.
I think we are in season though.
I think it's in
after the hay festival.
After the hay
it must
festival.
be in season.
And we're in this very nice cafe that's very empty right now. It is the next day, and my hand is sore from carrying all these books that I want to pick up in this one shop called Addyman Books. Oh my god, so many good deals. We have Edith Wharton, Elizabeth Taylor, Gertrude Stein, Vera Britton, Dodie Smith, Mary Lavelle, Muriel Spark, Ethel O'Brien, Mary McCarthy. They're all different authors. What's this? Doris Lessing and Penelope Lively, Iris Murdoch and Patricia Highsmith. All different authors, all a decent price. What do I do? They're all £5 each. I can't get them all. Since I last spoke to you, I bought 3 books. Skip Shock, which is Caroline Dunhu's new book, and 2 cheap old editions of Carol Churchill and Margaret Rabel, 2 other authors and Scottish playwrights I've been interested in. You've bought a bit more.
I bought 3 books, 2 bottles of alcohol and coffee.
Oh, and I bought a candle from the market. It's a gin candle.
And everyone was smoking, I think, outside the front. And it was 4 until everyone else left.
Kevin's cousin is Rose Grove.
Yeah.
Didn't buy any in this one. I did well. Also, didn't buy any in this one. But it's nice. It's very cute on the outside. This is probably my favourite shop. Wave! Wave! You're not gonna wave? It's a video. That's funny.
And I was very tempted to buy it, but it was like 10 quid and I was like...
Passion fruit cake. The best little bookshop in Hay. Do you agree? Hey, so if you saw my I'm back to YouTube video, you'll recognize this setup. I am bulk filming, little behind the scenes. So I'm gonna show you all the books I got. I'll start off with the one book I have read since I left hay-on-wye. Thank God I can say that because I bought a lot of books. So this book I knew I wanted to get in hay-on-wye. Caroline Donahue, big fan of her, love her podcast, Sentimental Garbage. I've only actually read one other book by her, The Rachel Incident, which I really loved. I really want to get to her other books, but I heard a lot about this book because I've been listening to Sentimental Garbage a lot recently and obviously following her on Instagram, so I was very excited by this book and really intrigued by its premise. It is a fantasy time travel book, but not time travel in the traditional sense. It's about this world in which you travel between different worlds, or it's a world, but there's worlds within it. You travel between different places, and the amount of time in a day differentiates between each place. So some places in the north have like less time than places in the south. So it is a really cool, fascinating world building novel, and but also has really cool characters. But anyway, I've read this one so I can actually say a little bit more about it. I loved it. It's really good. I had a really fun time reading it. It is going to be a duology, so I'm looking forward to the second one. And yeah, highly recommend her work. I got this book in hay-on-wye. I forgot to mention I went to a book signing at Chapters Bookstore and Caroline O'Donoghue signed my copy. She was really lovely. My mission for hay-on-wye otherwise, I didn't have a huge plan on the Friday we arrived. We arrived like Friday afternoon. But I soon realised that I did need to have a plan of some kind. There were so many books that I could get. And there are a lot of authors and books that I don't have that I wanted to collect. And I was unsuccessful in many. I'll talk through it. So when I arrived, the first place we went to was Hay Cinema Bookshop, which probably might have been the most exciting bookshop in that it was like just so expansive, so many shelves, so many different sections. And we actually returned there at one point, which I'll get to later, that when I saw this shop, I was like, oh, I really have to make a plan of some kind. First book I picked up was Eve's Hollywood by Eve Babbitts. Here's a little bookmark from the shop within it. An author I've been interested in reading for a while. I actually have a copy of Didion and Babbitts that I've only started flicking through. I haven't got through it yet. It's a biography about Joan Didion and Eve Babbitts, and they are both authors I have not read. So I picked this up and I thought to myself, I should also try and find a Joan Didion. Reader, I did not find any copy of Joan Didion. That's a lie. I did find copies of Joan Didion in a bookshop, but they were like normal copies. They were like new £11 copies, and I wanted to get like a cheaper paperback or secondhand copy. So Joan Didion for another time. But yes, I found this, and the other two I found that afternoon in Hay Cinema Bookshop, where A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Girl, and this is a collection of short stories from different female Irish authors about their childhood. And I thought that was such a cool concept. I quite like James Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man is a very famous novel, and the beginning of it is one of my favorite parts, like personally and selfishly, because it's set in the town I grew up in. But this, I'm really intrigued to read about Irish childhoods from the past. One of my favorite things is learning about authors and how they grew up and everything, so very intrigued by that. And I also just randomly, it was so cheap, I just picked up a copy of the Norton Anthology of Literature by Women. It's a classroom guide. But it's Sandra M. Gilbert and Susan Gobar, who I really like. They're feminist theorists from, like, I think were mostly known and wrote mostly in the 80s, I think, but I remember reading a lot of their stuff when I was in college. So I thought this one is a kind of a cool collector's item, but I actually might read through it and see what they say, but a lot of it is just kind of informational stuff about women's studies and feminist criticism. So, you know, once an English student, always an English student. So yeah, leaving that shop, earlier in the vlog, they were the first two books I got. I was like, I need to make a plan of some kind. I actually don't think I bought any other books that day. We did look in other bookshops, like the Adam and Annex, Richard Boots, but then, like, as we said earlier, like, a lot of them closed. So then we just chilled out for the evening. But that evening, I made a list of authors I wanted to try and find, and that I thought I would be able to find secondhand copies of, and I was pretty successful. We'll start with the first shop on the Saturday that we went to. This pile is crazy. And as you saw in the vlog earlier, I had a dilemma in Adiman Books. I ended up buying
pretty much all of the books that you saw, except for one. The Vera Brittain I decided not to pick up. Vera Brittain features in this book I have all about diaries, so I was kind of like, you know what, I can wait and go through some other books first, because a lot of these, I was focusing on the fiction. Vera Brittain I can read again. These are mostly secondhand, but I'll at least show you one. There were a lot of cheap paperbacks. Patricia Highsmith, The Talented Mr. Ripley. I have another Patricia Highsmith I haven't read yet, A Strangers on a Train, but this is her, I'm sure as you know, her most famous one. The movie was adapted from it, all that stuff, but this is not a secondhand, it's just a cheap paperback, but it was £5. So how could I not? How could I not? Then we have Curriculum Vitae by Muriel Spark. This is her autobiography, and I had just attended a talk on a biography about Muriel Spark a few days before, so I was like, it has to be done. Has to be done. It's a cool secondhand book. These next few are all Penguin paperback classics. Like you can see the orange spine. There was this beautiful room full of Penguin classics in Animan books that I really loved, and I picked up a few of those from there. So let's go through the next few. Doris Lessing. Some of these also are just names that I hear so many times. As someone who's interested in 20th century female writing, these are just like household names, and I just haven't read anything by them. It's actually a collection of short stories, which I forgot about because And Other Stories is in small text. Oh, I dropped one.
In the chaos of filming this, I think I skipped over talking about this book, which is Penelope Lively's Judgment Day. Another name I had heard of and was interested in reading, and I think she also started out writing children's fiction, so I'm intrigued to see what her adult fiction is like.
Anne O'Brien, very famous Irish author that I have not read. This is Girl with Green Eyes. A lot of the time, there were a few copies by some of these authors of different books, but sometimes I just picked up the book with a premise that I thought was intriguing, because this is not The Country Girls, which is her most famous novel that was censored by the Irish government. So, but I picked this up because I thought it seemed interesting. There also was just no copy of The Country Girls, to be fair, so maybe I would have picked up The Country Girls instead. This is, oh yes, this is actually a sequel. I think I found out after buying it that this is the next book following The Country Girls, so I still have to read The Country Girls, I guess. So that's funny, but it's a really cool copy. I really like the cover. Iris Murdoch, another household name in 20th century women's fiction, just had not read any of her stuff and picked this one up. It's called The Flight from the Enchanter. You can tell they're secondhand from the yellowed pages. Let's get that book smell. Oh, that was so nice. This is Mary McCarthy, an American author that I had heard of but had not read, and again this is like a beautiful yellowed Penguin copy. There's a more famous book she has, yes, The Group. I saw a copy of that in Richard Boots, like a newer edition than this, but I decided to go for a secondhand copy of her less known book, The Company She Keeps. I just realized there's the American flag in his glasses. That's kind of funny. Again, a really cool cover. I like a lot of these covers. I think they're very unique. Before my trip to hay-on-wye, I went to a workshop by Francesca Wade on biography writing, because she wrote a biography on Gertrude Stein, and I again went to this. I've not read any Gertrude Stein before, and I was like, I probably should read some. This pile is crazy. I probably should read some Gertrude Stein at some point, and then I found a copy of Gertrude Stein in Animan Books, and these are all now Virago classics. I really like Virago as a publisher. I know them very well because they publish Barbara Pym. I knew about the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, who was Gertrude Stein's best friend. They lived together and they were not lovers. They were in love. They were a couple. This is the sequel to that, which I did not realize, but I don't think it matters, because Alice B. Toklas is like an autobiography of Alice, but is written by Gertrude Stein, so it's kind of actually about Gertrude Stein. She was a funny woman. There's Gertrude on the cover, an example of like an author who is more well known for her own personality than her writing, and that the fact she has her own face on the cover of this says a lot. I know it's about her life, I guess, it's not fiction, but Edith Wharton, The Age of Innocence. I have been wanting to read Edith Wharton for a while. I'm a big fan of the Buccaneers TV series on Apple TV, which is actually adapted from an unfinished novel by Edith Wharton. So The Age of Innocence is, I think, her most well known, so picked up a copy of this. By the way, all of these are between £3 to £5. all of these books, which is crazy. But as you see, this is a big pile of books, so the money added up. This is Elizabeth Taylor's Angel. This is a very specific book I actually was interested in finding, so I felt quite lucky because I already have a copy of Elizabeth Taylor's what's it called? Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont. That's it. Sorry, I was saying Mrs. Palfront. Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont. I have a copy of that. Haven't read it yet, of course. This is a common trend. Elizabeth Taylor, when I was looking into her history one time, I found this book in her Wikipedia and I just thought it sounded really interesting. Next one is Dodie Smith's I Captured the Castle. This is a very nice copy, another Virago modern classic. So what is that? Is that the receipt? When we were in hay-on-wye, we met with Ben's friend for some lunch and she was like, I love that book, when she saw I had it, so very intrigued to see what it's like. I've just heard about it a lot. This one is funny. When I was in the bookshop earlier in the vlog, you might have heard me think that the name of this author was Mary Lavelle. No, the name of the author is Kate O'Brien. The book is about a Mary Lavelle, an Irish author. Really happy that I picked up some Irish authors while on my trip. I was expecting more of British authors, but picked up a few of these. But yeah, another Virago modern classic book. Love the green of it, and secondhand. I see all the yellowed pages, probably a great smell. Here we go. Oh my god. And so that was all I got originally at Addy Man Books that day, but then the next day, very much against my better judgment, I went back in. But I only picked up one extra book. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. There's still more books to go from other shops, so it's pretty bad. But I picked up Dorothy West, who I'd never heard of, a Harlem Renaissance writer living in New York, well, obviously Harlem, but you know. This is a collection of short stories, and this is a more recent Virago Modern Classics edition, not secondhand, but again, a cheap paperback. This was only £5. So really, a really good place to get some cheap books. Like if you want to collect some authors, it's a very handy place to get some books, and also you're supporting some local bookshops. But yeah, this is The Richer the Poor, Stories, Sketches and Reminiscence, and I actually already read the introduction to this, or sorry, the foreword or the introduction. I feel like she wrote, yes, there's an introduction here written by Dorothy West herself about this collection, so I really like that, so intrigued to read the rest of this. Oh my god, I need to stretch my back. That was all Addy Man Books. I also picked up 2 books from the Green Ink Booksellers. I'm pretty sure it was from there. One of them is Margaret Drabble, Jerusalem of the Golden. I remember hearing about Margaret Drabble through the Slightly Fox podcast. You might have spotted in the vlog me point to a bunch of issues of something called Slightly Fox. I have not read any of the issues before, but I spotted it and I was like, oh my god, a podcast I like. They have a podcast that is really interesting, and they covered Barbara Pym. That's how I found the podcast, and there was another episode interviewing Margaret Drabble. The interview on the podcast was really interesting. I was like, that is an author I'd love to check out. She's also a biographer, I think, but this is one of her fiction pieces called Jerusalem the Golden. It has a really funky cover that's quite odd, but I also thought it was quite cool. And also I picked up a copy of Carol Churchill's Top Girls. This is a play. I'd heard of Carol Churchill through another student in my master's program. I hadn't seen any of her plays, heard of them, and I saw this and I was like, why not pick up the copy? The play itself is actually so short, because this is like one of those student editions of a play that like has a lot of, that's like all like, what's it called, like supplementary or complimentary content on the play. I would love to read more plays in general because I really love theatre and I really enjoyed reading plays when I was in college. Things kind of started to blur, especially like after Addy Man Books and before lunch. I started looking at books and I felt like I got book blind. I just could not read anything anymore. So in the afternoon we went to some other shops, and one of them was the Broad Street Book Centre, I think it was called, and I'm pretty sure that's where I got these. These are all very cheap paperbacks, once again, not secondhand, but like were like £5 each. It was crazy. So the first one, the only book I bought written by a man. Scandalous. I'm so sorry for not giving equal opportunity to the men. Anyway, Evelyn Waugh. I could be saying his name wrong. I thought it was Woe. Evelyn Waugh? Maybe it's Waugh. This guy, Brideshead Revisited, very famous book set in Oxford. Maybe not wholly set in Oxford, but partially set in Oxford, that I have not read and have been meaning to read for ages, and I thought this was a very nice copy. I think I was torn between this copy and another one and ended up going for this one. A Penguin Modern Classic. That's another edition of book I really enjoy, our Penguin Modern Classics. Then I picked up another Muriel Spark, this one a fictional piece, and it's A Far Cry from Kensington. Again, another Muriel Spark I have not read. There's a lot of Muriel Spark I haven't read yet, even though I did some of her work for my dissertation. But yeah, this was again another cheap copy introduced by Ali Smith. I mean, it all comes together. And then a Jean Rhys book. I've only read one Jean Rhys book, which was Wide Sour Aggressive Sea, her most famous. I read it while I was in college. Since then I've picked up a biography about Jean Rhys, and then I was like, saw this and was like, I should probably read more about Jean Rhys as well. And this is Good Morning Midnight. We're almost there, we're almost there. So I'm pretty sure all of the rest of these books I got in the Hay Cinema bookshop. Ben and I returned because Ben was determined to find a copy of a book he really wanted. I think he was unsuccessful, and I also was trying to find some Joan Didion, but no, I was unsuccessful there too, but I still picked up more books regardless. So I went back in the Hay Cinema bookshop, was browsing again. We spent a long time. I think this was on a Sunday. We were like so brain dead from the weekend of book shopping, and what a good weekend it was, but my god, is book shopping tiring. I picked up a copy of Elizabeth Bowen's The Little Girls, a really beautiful cover, really enjoy that. And this is, what is this? This is also Penguin. Vintage classics, they have so many different like types of editions of books, so can't keep up. But yeah, really enjoy this. I think I started Elizabeth Bowen like years ago before I started college and just didn't get into it, but I'd like to read more of her, another Irish author. I have been very unsuccessful. Ooh! I didn't realize this came with its own bookmark. That's funky. Sorry. I am a terrible Jane Austen enthusiast, as in I like Jane Austen, but I've only really read 2 of her books. And I say that with an asterisk because it was when I was in college and I speed read a lot of her books while I was in college. Northanger Abbey and Sense and Sensibility, I did 2 tutorials on those for different classes. And I really like them both, but like I haven't even read Pride and Prejudice. I have started it, I think I'm like halfway through, and this was like back in September when I went to Bath for the first time. Lovely place. But I just couldn't, I think I got in a reading slump and I just needed to switch to something else, so I need to go back to that. Regardless, Jane Austen, I really enjoyed the like Jane Austen Centre in Bath and learning about her life, so I saw this biography by Claire Tomlin about Jane Austen and was intrigued, so picked this up as well. This was, I think, £3. Yeah, £3, that's crazy. Margaret Forster. I had not really heard of her, but she kept popping up in places. She kept appearing on shelves, and I was like, who is this Margaret Forster? I've already picked up a Margaret Drabble copy at this point, so maybe I just had the name Margaret in my head and just kept spotting her. But yeah, no, this book seemed interesting. It's about 2 women who are abandoned as babies. But yeah, I just wanted to pick up a copy of this because I think I did a quick Google of Margaret Forster and I was like, she sounds fun. She sounds interesting. Rebecca West, had never heard of her until this like book talk I went to the week I was in hay-on-wye, the talk on the Muriel Spark biography. There was a question regarding Rebecca West, and there was a little like of a tidbit of a tension moment between 2 of the attendees of the talk. Like, I think one person said, didn't Rebecca West abandon her child as well? Like a Muriel Spark whole thing, but she did not give much support or love to her son. I know I need to read the biography, but that was kind of the gist I got from the talk. But someone else brought up Rebecca West and someone responded, no, she didn't abandon her son. And there was a weird moment of tension. So yeah, I'd never heard of her and then Googled her afterwards. I was like, she's a writer. So this is The Essential Rebecca West, and it has some short stories. It also features a biography of Saint Augustine, which is cool, like as in written by Rebecca West, but it's some short stories. Maybe it's excerpts of longer pieces, I'm not sure, but anyway, some fiction by her, the biography, and then political and crime reportage, and literary criticism, later fiction, history and travel. So it's like a mix of her different styles of writing, not just fictional, but also like reporting and travel writing and criticism, all that kind of stuff. Like she has a bit of criticism on Charlotte Bronte, so that sounds interesting. I don't know if I picked this up in Hay Cinema Bookshop. I cannot remember where I picked this up, but I'm pretty sure it was there because I don't recall it anywhere else. But it's another Edna O'Brien, but this time it's a play called Haunted. And I saw the title and I saw haunting. Yes, please. But yes, so a play by Edna O'Brien. Looks like a nice short read, might get to it soon. But I was very intrigued. I also thought the cover was cool. I love when plays feature photos from the like first or any production of it. So yeah, that is everything. Oh my god. Ooh. Oh, I forgot, I also got a candle. I think I mentioned that in the vlog. It is from the Hay Distillery, they do gin, and we tried the gin on the Saturday night and it was really lovely. They had like cocktails in their distillery. The distillery is tiny, it is so small, but they have a lovely bar there, and I recommend the slushy gin cocktail. So good. But yeah, I picked up the Dr. Beaky's flavored scented candle from the market in Hay, and it's really interesting. As in, it's delicious, I love it, but I'm also like, I'm intrigued by how it will smell when it is burnt, because it's not a very typical candle. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I had such a great time in hay-on-wye. Would love to go back, but I think I should read at least half of these books before going back. That's being generous. I should probably read all of them before going back because I need to get through my TBR. So if you enjoyed this, let me know. I'd love to do more book-centered videos, as ever since leaving college, like, I always have loved reading, but I feel like I've definitely, my love for it has grown since leaving college because I've been able to have the time to read things I really like and to develop my interests beyond a curriculum. So yeah, let me know, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again soon.